Hi, Ben here from Trout and Fly Fishing, and we're back today reviewing the all-new TFO LK Legacy. And that stands, of course, for the late, great Lefty Kreh, who we all miss. And I'm really excited today to try the last rod that he was ever involved in designing. Don't forget, if you enjoy this rod review, all of our funding comes from your purchases at tridentflyfishing.com. As we always do, let's start by going over some of the key features on this new LK Legacy. Today we're reviewing the 8-weight, so of course we've got this composite fighting butt, and they've revamped the reel seat this year. So we've got a double up-locking aluminum reel seat. It's got sort of a cool new high design, if you will, slider here. Functionally, this is exactly the same as what you saw on the old BVK, but it definitely looks a little bit nicer, feels a little bit updated. Moving up, we've got a nice full wells grip, exactly what you'd expect on a saltwater inspired 8-weight. And then that moves into this nice sort of olive-ish matte blank. Overall, the BVK was a little bit more green, a little bit shinier. This is more subdued. Overall, I definitely like this color a little bit better. Then TFO gives us nice alignment dots to save us that hot second on the water. Then we've got these rather unique black framed stripping guides. I've never seen these before on any other rod. TFO does say that these are a stainless steel guide, so they're gonna be saltwater and corrosion resistant, and so are the snake guides. So all stainless guides, no high-tech materials, but that's kind of what you'd expect at this price point. Now, let's get out in the field and show you how this LK Legacy casts. Starting at our first saltwater distance of 40 feet, you can tell that the tip on this LK Legacy is not quite soft enough to really deliver a short cast with a lot of finesse. So while it doesn't necessarily make sense to compare a $300 rod to an $800 rod, the Scott Sector is really soft and does these short casts really well, whereas I felt like you're getting a lot of line speed on this LK Legacy at the shorter distance. That said, as usual, plenty of accuracy, just might spook that tailing bonefish unless you're fishing a really tiny fly. Move back to 60 feet. The rod, at least in these zero wind conditions, is absolutely a pleasure to cast. Just feels like sort of a moderately fast 8-weight. And that makes it a great fishing tool, especially for the wading angler. You know, you can use this really in most saltwater conditions and you'll be totally fine. What really surprised me at the 60-foot distance was just how accurate the LK Legacy was. It's just as good as anything out there at that middle distance. Moving back to 80 feet, you start to lose a little bit of that power, and quite honestly, you're gonna have to slow down that casting stroke and really pay a lot of attention to make those long, powerful casts. Honestly, I wouldn't really recommend it for any sort of precision casting at longer distances. So if you have a BVK, or if you are looking to buy a BVK and now are wondering about this LK Legacy and how it compares, the BVK was a lot faster of a rod. It was also a really fantastic casting rod. I would say this LK Legacy is a much better fishing tool. It's a little bit heavier, probably a little bit more durable, definitely not as fast. So if you're sort of in that beginner to intermediate zone, which most anglers are, this is gonna be a better rod for you than that old BVK. If you're looking to impress your friends in the parking lot, BVK, hands down, every single day. In the Northeast, where we're casting heavier lines like an outbound short and just looking to cover a lot of water, I'm guessing this is probably not gonna be as popular of a rod. The other thing that's sort of confusing about this LK Legacy is it's another moderately fast, pretty good TFO, and we're gonna cast the Mangrove Coast later today, but it's just not really clear where this fits into the lineup other than the $300 price point. Now, onto our Poseidon Score. Up first is accuracy, and while this rod was really good at 60 feet, it was pretty good at 40, it was really not that great at 80 feet. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. In terms of components, this is a very basic rod. It's pretty much what you'd expect for that $300 price point, and it earns a 6.5 out of 10. Up next is distance and power, and this is just not a distance rod for sure. You can do it if you really try, but it earns a 5 out of 10. The grip is totally fine, standard saltwater grip. The cork is nice, maybe actually even a bit nicer than you'd expect on a $300 rod, and it earns an 8 out of 10. In terms of looks and workmanship, the rod is nice, but again, your standard sort of overseas built rod, and nothing special, earns a 7 out of 10. Up next is swing weight, and the LK Legacy comes in at 85 gram meters squared, which is definitely at the higher end for an 8 weight in 2021, but for the price point, it's sort of in line with what you'd expect, and definitely not a super lightweight rod. I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. In terms of value, at $300, this is a very good value. There are not tons of rods in that price range, and if you're looking for an entry-level saltwater rod that's gonna do everything you need for your at-home, particularly southeast, flats-ish type of fishing, this is gonna be really good. I'm gonna say it's a 9 out of 10 for value. Last but not least is the cool factor, and I feel like this LK Legacy came out under the radar, and TFO has generally been keeping a lower profile these days than they have in the past. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Add it all up, and that gives us a total Poseidon score of 55, which gets us pretty close to other TFO rods that we've reviewed in the past, like the Finesse series. Ultimately, this is a great value-based rod, and it's just not gonna be a super top-notch performer, but it's exactly what you'd expect for the price point. Tell us what you think about this new LK Legacy by leaving us a comment in the box below. And don't forget, this rod ships for free from tridentflyfishing.com. I'm Ben, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.